Good morning, Andrew. Good to see you.
George, great to be here. Glad to be getting ready for the conference on the 4th of March. Can't wait. It's one of my highlights for this year.
You've worked in many different roles throughout the year. Can you just give me an idea of your journey and where you focus your energies now?
Yeah, I'm a bit of a chameleon. I started life as an engineer and realised that I loved engineering, real-world engineering, being on the back of a railed car, doing things for the Australian Army. Then I realised I also really liked marketing and product development. So I worked for some of the largest telecommunication companies in Australia, Telstra and Optus in product development, developed satellite networks and long-distance data networks. And then got the bug for business development and started working for a bunch of startups. Ironically, one was in commercial property. So I've been involved in the property sector for probably 20 years. Back in 2001, I ran a website called Property Look, which was a joint venture between the big four property companies. I've worked in online messaging. I've worked in location-based services, did a lot of work in social media. Influencers back in 2011, ran one of the very first influencer companies way before Instagram influencers were a thing. And then I spent 4 years at IBM as a global managing partner looking at collaboration technology. So many people watching this today would be familiar with Teams and Zoom and Slack and all those sort of things. And I would go into large organizations that would say, Andrew, this technology just hasn't worked. We can't see it working properly. Fast forward to 2020, where we're a distributed workforce, we now have to make it work. So I've spent my life being, I suppose we talked before about your purpose in life. My purpose in life is as a teacher, as a translator. How do I translate difficult to understand technology into something that anyone can understand? And I look at the practical application of being a futurist. What can you learn from my talk today and put in place tomorrow? So I suppose one of the KPIs at speaking at the conference is, can you be challenged and can you say, what Andrew said I really need to look at, I need to be more digitally curious. I need to work out how to work with a distributed workforce. I need to try this technology. I actually have a slide that I put up called the scary slide. I put a bunch of terminology on the screen and some people will say, I don't know what that means. And I say, that's okay. But tonight, tomorrow, go home and understand what the technology means and what it means for your business and what it means for your constituents. So I suppose my life's work has been to understand technology and then translate it into something that anyone can understand. And I run a podcast that my parents in Australia listen to, and if they can understand it, then I've done my job.
What is the biggest developments in terms of technology that you think are going to affect us?
I think that there are so many things that are happening, but there are a number of enabling technologies. First of all is mobility and communication. The fact that I can sit here in South Kensington and speak to you or speak to anyone around the world because of a very solid, high-speed, high-quality broadband network is something that we didn't even think about years ago. The fact that I can store all of my documents almost elastically, infinitely in the cloud is another thing that's very, very important. Things that are happening behind the scenes that we may not see every day, AI and machine learning. When we go and make a decision about something or when we go and select a Netflix movie to watch, I'm seeing recommendations that will be very different to yours because it's seen what I like and what my friends like. So I see some of the technology that's enabling technology we'll never actually see under the hood, but it just works. And if I told you 25 or 30 years ago that you had to carry around a piece of plastic with you everywhere, you would have thought I was on some strange hallucination. But everyone now has one of these. They carry it with them. Why? Because it makes our life easier. So I spend my life trying to understand how technology can make our own life easier and make it easier to do good work. And we'll probably talk on the conference about the future of work, and it's changed massively over the last 12 months. We've got used to a new way of working. And what I don't want to see is us falling back into the old way of working because technology has now enabled that. Funnily enough, I saw an ad on a taxi for Zoom a few months ago. I remember seeing the same taxi ad probably 2 years ago and thought, why would I want to do video conferencing? It's not very good quality, but now we've just defaulted to that because we can get great work done using technology.
You seem to have a repertoire of really interesting technology angles and subject matter that you deal with. What do you think the impact of AI on our day-to-day lives is going to be in our business?
So you think about it, your mobile phone knows everything about you. It knows your next meeting, it knows your bank balance, it knows when we can fly, when your next trip is. Imagine if you could have a digital agent that looked after your digital life. And I think we're not far away from this. Google have actually been experimenting with voice technology. They call it Google Duplex, where you can actually tell your Google Assistant you want to book a restaurant, a particular one for this evening, you've got a babysitter, and you've got a couple of times available. The Google agent will then place a voice call to the restaurant. The AI will then interact with a human being. It will hear there are various options. It knows what options are available and it will book the restaurant for you. Now, that's low-level technology that's available now. I think in under 5 years, we'll have digital agents running our lives. Think about a use case. My health insurance is due in November. Rather than going to a price comparison website and seeing that the top one is actually paid to be there, my digital agent knows my preferences. It goes out and does digital deals with the digital agents from all those companies. And one of the companies says, if you allow me a one-time hashed, encrypted data packet of your Fitbit information to show how healthy you are, we'll give you a 40% discount. My digital agent says that's a great deal and selects that for me and tells me it's been done. What it means though, and block your ears if you're in marketing, I will no longer see advertising. I don't need to be bombarded by email messaging or billboards or those sorts of things, interruption advertising. That will be handled by my digital assistant. I think we'll then be able to get back to actually enjoying life because the minutiae, you think about it, you finish work, you've got to do things for the kids, you've got your insurance that's due, all these things that have to happen. Your digital agent knows what you want. So what that means is we'll have to start writing ads for robots that will get through my digital agent and allow me to see something from a different supplier because my digital agent says, I've done the research and I think this particular supplier might be useful and I've done a digital deal. So that's one thing that I'm proposing is going to happen. And apart from the marketers in the room, no one has said that's a crazy idea just yet.
Yeah, it opens up a multitude of stuff, doesn't it? The ethics about AI.
Yes. The issue will be open data. So years ago, the Lord Mayor's office here in London allowed bus times to be shared through open APIs, and companies like Citymapper have used that to basically tell me when my bus is due. I think we're going to start to see not just open banking because it's been regulated by the EUs and others. We're going to have open housing and open water and open utilities. So I'll be able to send data about my situation securely between different providers. There's issues around data sovereignty. How do I prove that I've had a negative COVID test to all the people that need to know securely? So I think the use of open data, the use of open APIs, but more importantly at a consumer level, what's the value of my data? I think in the not too distant future, Facebook won't hold all the data on me and it won't be a binary decision. Do you accept all the T's and C's? Your relationship with Facebook will be different to mine because I've done a digital deal based on the value exchange of my data. And I think what happened a few years ago when the Cambridge Analytica thing broke, it was fantastic because the person on the street then said, Facebook did what with my data? You mean there's real value there? So I think in anything we do, whether we're in a consumer environment or in social housing or in government or in public sector or private sector, what is the value of my data and how can it be processed and enriched? And how can I get value back from that data? I think that's a thing that really keeps me awake at night as well.
Fascinating. What have you learned in other sectors that can help us?
It's about the data. And so there is rich data happening everywhere. I'm sure one of the topics we'll cover from one of your delegates is going to be IoT, the Internet of Things. How can you predict when something's going to go wrong inside a house? You don't want to be always having to visit these houses. So how can you use data to make predictions about things? But just to step back a bit, last year I was talking to another organisation about social housing. And in the research, I looked at the Charter for Social Housing Residents Social Housing White Paper. It's about 70 pages long. And I did something at the very beginning that I do all the time. I basically did a global search for the word digital. It did not appear once in that 76-page document. And I went, have I got that wrong? Let me try that again. No, the word digital didn't appear. So I think if I was to impart anything from other organizations is digital first. Can you actually, first of all, grab the data that you need? And often when I'm talking to clients in other industries, I look at the data you have and the data that you need and the data you can get access to. And it might be that you don't own the data. Data ownership is going to be another thing as well. Even if you measure the temperature inside of the houses that you manage, The downstream data, who owns that? And if someone enriches that and provides predictive maintenance, who owns the output of that? So we could talk for hours about this, but I think data is the key to everything, because humans do crazy things. And if we can measure what's going on and look at predictive maintenance, predictive cleaning, all those sorts of things, that may actually save people the grief we want to remove from their lives.
So on the flip side, Andrew, what are the implications of an organization that are not fully technologically or digitally equipped?
Well, they're going to lose out. And that's an easy thing for me to say. But even the government is now doing everything digitally. I mentioned to you before, I did a COVID test today. It was super simple. I scanned a barcode, set up an account. It then got me to scan another barcode through the app, did everything digitally. And I've really been impressed about how the UK government, gov.uk, it just works. I've never had a bad experience, whether it be tax or all sorts of things as well. So if the government is up to speed and they've really made strides to make it really easy for people to engage with them, if you're in a paper-based system, you won't be able to deal with the government. Because if you can't have an API that connects into the government downstream systems, you're going to be left behind. So I think it's not just dealing with other companies, it's dealing with the entities that have the overall responsibility for this sector. You need to be running as fast as they are.
Brilliant, Andrew. Well, look, we're all looking forward to meeting you in March. We'll have lots of questions for you. I look forward to meeting you in the studio. And just one last thing, where can we find out a little bit more about you and what you've done?
Really simple. It's what I am and where I live. Futurist.London. Everything is there. Futurist.London. I also have a podcast, the Practical Futurist podcast you can find there, where I talk about the future of things. But Futurist.London, and follow me on Twitter.
That's brilliant. Andrew, just remains me to say thank you very much and stay safe. And I look forward to seeing you in March.
Thanks, George. Can't wait.